हेलो स्टूडेंट्स एंड अ मैसिव वेलकम टू पॉट स्टडी। आज की क्लास ना बहुत ही स्पेशल होने वाली है। देखो, वी आर गोइंग टू टैकल अ चैप्टर दैट यूजुअली साउंड्स लाइक अ टोटली बोरिंग लिस्ट ऑफ डेट्स एंड मशीन्स, बट आई प्रॉमिस यू इट्स एक्चुअली दिस मैसिव ड्रामा. It's full of human struggle, money and power. Today we're mastering class 10 history, chapter 4, the Age of Industrialization. So grab your notebooks, get focused and let's make this topic absolutely unforgettable for your board exams.
Let me start by asking you something. कभी सोचा है कि आपके कपड़े कहाँ से आते हैं? I mean, today you just order a t-shirt online, right? And it arrives from some massive factory the very next day. But imagine a world hundreds of years ago. We're talking no electricity, no giant smokestack factories, literally zero mass production. How did the world still manage to trade massive amounts of clothing internationally before all of that even existed? Well, that is exactly where our story begins. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for Aaj ki class. First, before factories. Second, the factory system. Third, Indian weavers. Fourth, Indian industries. And finally, marketing and Swadeshi. Let's jump right into part 1, before the factories.
So let's rewind the clock all the way back to 17th century Europe. Now, most people think industrial production started with factories, right? But it actually didn't. The first really major concept for your exams is Proto-Industrialisation. Proto basically means early form. ये एक ऐसी phase थी जहां large scale international production होती तो थी, but absolutely not in factories. It was entirely based in rural village homes. You can kind of think of it like a modern cloud kitchen. City का merchant orders लेता है, but the actual काम is distributed among hundreds of villagers जो अपने घर पर बैठकर काम कर रहे हैं.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what that looked like. Just notice how whole families, right, peasants and artisans, they are all working together right in their living rooms. Basically, a town merchant ocker raw materials supply kar Tata, and then the family would spin the yarn or weave the cloth. Just one merchant might control hundreds of workers this way, perfectly avoiding all the strict rules of the city trade guilds.
Moving on to Section 2, the factory system arrives.
Of course, things couldn't just stay in the living room forever. By the late 18th century in Britain, cotton became the undisputed king of the world. Step 1 in this shift, inventions like Richard Arkwright's really famous cotton mill completely changed the game. Step 2, instead of dropping materials at 100 different homes, capitalists abbed in costly machines and workers go ek chat ke niche laaye. Just imagine managing a group school project from different houses versus bringing everyone together in the school library. Centralized karne se na, the factory owner could easily supervise the workers, which drastically sped up production.
But wait, here is a twist that examiners absolutely love to ask about. Steam power aane ke baad bhi hand labor gayab nahi hua. Why? Well, because Victorian Britain made poor workers literally everywhere which made human labor incredibly cheap. Machines broke down pretty often, or une repair karna super expensive tha. Plus, many industries had a very seasonal demand, making temporary human hires ideal. And let's not forget the rich aristocrats. Standard machine-made goods une nahi chahiye the. Une wo intricate, handmade luxury items hi pasand the. In fact, mid-19th century tak, less than 20% of Britain's workforce was actually in factories.
Now let's shift focus to Section 3, impacts on Indian weavers.
So, while Britain was busy building all these factories, हमारे world famous Indian textiles का क्या हो रहा था? Spoiler alert, it's honestly a story of complete devastation. Before the British fully took over, Indian weavers ना traditional supply merchants के साथ काम करते थे. ये लोग local, friendly neighbors जैसे थे, जो tough times में help करते थे. But the British East India Company replaced them with people called Gomasthas. A Gomasthas was basically a paid outsider servant. Think of the difference between a friendly local shopkeeper giving you groceries on credit versus an aggressive, ruthless bank loan recovery agent जो security guards के साथ घर आ जाए. These Gomasthas literally marched into villages with sepoys. वो weavers को पीटते थे for any delays and they locked them into forced loans. This created the ultimate crisis. And please absolutely memorize these exact points for your exam. First, the export market collapsed entirely. Second, cheap machine-made Manchester cloth flooded India, completely undercutting prices. Third, raw cotton heavily export होने लगा, तो Indian weavers raw materials afford ही नहीं कर पाते थे. Harassed by these arrogant Gomasthas and crushed by debt, thousands of weavers simply abandoned their villages and gave up their family craft forever.
Let's move to and see how this builds in Section 4, rise of Indian industries.
But Indians didn't just give up.
Despite heavy restrictions from the British, local businessmen started fighting back by building their own factories. Let's look at this timeline. Early Indian entrepreneurs like Dwarkanath Tagore in Bengal and Parsis like Dinsha Patit in Bombay, उन्होंने अपनी initial fortunes बनाई by trading opium and cotton with China. And they used that wealth to industrialize India. देखो, 1854 में पहली cotton mill Bombay में set up हुई. Next year, 1855, the first jute mill opened in Bengal. And then in 1912, the legendary J.N. Tata set up the very first iron and steel works in Jamshedpur. But in factories के अंदर exactly काम कौन कर रहा था? It was mostly poor peasants migrating from rural villages just for survival. उनकी reality was really harsh. Incredibly long working hours, terribly low wages, and living in poor, crowded slums. And here is a highly probable exam keyword for you, jobber. Mill owners villagers को personally नहीं जानते थे, so they hired jobbers. ये middlemen थे जो recruiters का काम करते थे. Jobbers बहुत जल्दी powerful और corrupt हो गए, often demanding bribes or personal favors just to give a starving peasant a job.
This brings us to our final section, Section 5, Marketing and the Swadeshi. Now, what's really interesting about this is you can produce millions of shirts in a factory, sure, but how do you actually convince ordinary people to buy them? It's all about consumer psychology. Take a look at this visual from a 1900 music book called Dawn of the Century. Notice the goddess of progress standing there on a wheel with wings, surrounded by cameras, printing presses, and factories. British marketers' machinery or industrialization, co-magical, divine, are undeniably modern dikhana chahte the.
But actually, selling that foreign cloth to Indians required some really clever psychological tricks. The British used bold, made in Manchester labels as a promise of high quality and reliability. लेकिन उन्होंने वहाँ stop नहीं किया. उन्होंने Indian gods like Krishna and Saraswati की images in cloth bundles पर print कर दी. It was such a sneaky way to make a totally foreign product feel familiar and divinely approved. उन्होंने beautifully printed calendars भी बनाए featuring nawabs and emperors. Why calendars? क्योंकि अगर कोई poor consumer illiterate भी है, they easily understand a picture of a king, which instantly associated the product with high status.
However, marketing is a two-way street. During the Swadeshi movement, Indian manufacturers flipped this exact script. They started using advertising as a powerful weapon for nationalism. Their message was loud and clear. If you really care for the nation, then boycott British goods and buy only Indian products. Advertising literally became a tool for freedom. All right, students, we have covered a whole lot of ground today. Let's lock this in for your exams with the ultimate Class 10 cheat sheet. Quick recap. Remember, Proto-Industrialisation means pre-factory, rural, home-based production. Arkwright is your guy for centralized machines and workers in the cotton mill. Gomasthas were those cruel, paid British servants who exploited the weavers. Jobbers were the corrupt middlemen recruiting Indian factory workers. And marketing, that relied heavily on labels, gods, calendars, and eventually Swadeshi nationalism. Go ahead and take a screenshot of this right now.
And that brings us to the end. I want to leave you with this final thought. So, was the Age of Industrialization really just a story of machines? A boring timeline of steam engines and gears? Or was it actually a massive, dramatic story of human struggle, survival, and adaptation? History is about people, guys, not just machines. Keep that in mind when you're writing your answers. तो मिलते हैं next class में. Study hard, stay curious, and see you next time on Pod Study.